Welcome to the section on object-oriented programming. Here's what we'll be doing in this section. We're going to define what object-oriented programming, or OOP, is, and revisit the new keyword, and understand it in quite a bit of depth. We'll then use constructor functions to reduce code duplication and refactor our constructor functions using call and apply. If you haven't watched the series on closures and the keyword this, I highly recommend you do that first. Everything in these videos will build off of our knowledge of the keyword this, as well as call, apply, and bind. Here we go. So what is object-oriented programming? Simply put, it's a programming model based around the idea of objects and blueprints which create objects. We call these blueprints classes, and the objects that we create from our classes are traditionally called instances. With object-oriented programming, we strive to make our classes abstract and modular so that we can reuse classes easily and share them amongst all parts of an application. It's important to note that JavaScript does not have built-in support for classes, unlike languages like Python, Ruby, and Java, but we can mimic the behavior of classes by using what JavaScript has, functions and objects. Before we see how to use functions to mimic the behavior of what a class is, let's see why this programming technique is quite useful. Imagine for a second that you're an architect, and you're tasked with building a few houses. Each house is going to have a certain number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and a number of square feet. The first thing that might come to mind is, let's make an object for each house we need to make. That seems pretty reasonable, but once we start having to create more than a few objects, things get very repetitive and tedious. Let's refactor this code by writing a blueprint for what a house should look like. Let's make a function when used that will construct a house object. In JavaScript, we call these constructor functions. Now let's see what our constructor function for a house looks like. Right off the bat, we see that the function is capitalized. This does not change anything about the function. It's just best practice and convention so that other developers know that it's a constructor function. The next thing we see is the keyword this is back, just when you thought we were done with that. If you haven't watched the series on closures and the keyword this, make sure you do so. Otherwise, the rest of this series will be quite confusing. In our constructor function, we are attaching properties onto the keyword this. We're somehow hoping that when we call the function, a new object will be returned to us with the value specified in the function. However, something is missing here. If we look at the first house variable, we are setting it equal to the result of the house function being called. The problem is, our house function is not returning anything. Therefore, the function will return undefined. So how do we fix this issue? The answer lies in another special keyword that we'll explore in the next video, the new keyword. See you there.